Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen, life coach Linda Armstrong, and Carlos Balasquide here on this Friday, November the 30th, 2018, last day of November. 4 p.m. New York time, 1 p.m. Los Angeles time, 9 p.m. London time, and 8 a.m. in Sydney, Australia. Good morning, Sydney, and we hope you guys are having a great Friday, or in the middle of a great Friday, or starting a great day, or wherever you are in your schedule. We hope you're having a good time. And we're going to have a good time today because, last week was a super successful show, and the one before that was even more successful. Linda, I got to tell you, our show was so successful, we were getting reviews from people saying that they were being helped because of what we did with the money and energy.
Wow.
Yeah, people were, including our co-host, Carlos is my co-host too from Tuesdays, Alex King said she was having positive experience from that. And in fact, Carlos himself has been having some cool stuff this week. So, that was an episode that really, really, really paid off. And I don't know if we're going to be able to top that one. That's what it's all about, I tell you. We were getting people, I've been getting text messages and Facebook messages and emails from people saying that they were having success with it. So, that was one of the best episodes we've ever done because of all the ways that people are succeeding. It's a great thing. So,
oh, great.
Yeah. So how you doing? Are you off to a good start, or actually a good end of the week, I should say. Good start to the weekend, maybe I should say.
Yep. Trying to stay warm here in New York, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Walt.
Oh, yes.
Carlos, I'm jealous.
He's hanging out in the warm temps.
Walt, I have a buddy in from New York right now, and he's happy to be here for sure.
I'm sure. Yeah. And Carlos has had one heck of a week, too. I don't know if you want to tell anything about what's going on, but I can just tell from the smile on your face, anybody can see that you're having a good week, right?
Yeah, actually, I can't go into it,
okay.
Out loud.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Well, I'll just say that what it is very, very exciting. I think I can safely say that.
All right, cool. Congratulations.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to see if we're going to top that. I don't know if we can, but we're going to top that with something it's right in Carlos's wheelhouse because it's about laughter. It's about, feeling good and having fun and laughing your way to your dreams is the way we're titling it. And laughter certainly plays a major role in being a deliberate creator, I think. And I think you do too, Linda, and Carlos does too, I think, because it gets you into that high vibration, right? And if there's anybody who knows about vibration, it's Linda Armstrong, the energy coach, because vibration's it.
Well, that's what it's all about.
It is.
That's our true nature, right? And so luckily we have people like Carlos who can take us there when we don't know if we can take ourselves there.
Mm.
Just through comedy, through laughter.
Absolutely. And Carlos, you have translated and transferred your ability to make people laugh. We were talking about this actually in one of the previous episodes where you described yourself as an extrovert who was always on. You figured, well, you might as well actually be on stage while you're doing it. So it's not like it's something that's foreign to you, but this is a fairly big thing in your life, helping other people to feel good.
Yeah, I think it's always been kind of a responsibility that I feel almost, and not kind of in any kind of burdensome way, but just because I have this ability and I have these gifts, it's my duty to share them, right? And I think that's how we show that we're grateful. That's how we say that we appreciate these gifts that have been given to us is by really trying to use them as much as possible. So definitely on track.
Absolutely. And go ahead.
But yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
Oh, no, I lost it. It's.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. No, all I was going to say is we're also, as usual, live streaming to the Law of Attraction Change My Life group, and we're going to invite anybody there who wants to share their favorite stuff about laughter and comedy and humor, because we're finding more and more people are enjoying being a part of the podcast, which is really cool. We've been doing a number of Q&As lately, for instance, and getting a lot of participation on that. So we like the idea of our listening audience joining in, and especially now that people can listen to us during the live stream portion. It's really very cool. So if you're listening to the podcast, obviously you really can't do that. But if you're listening live to the live stream, then by all means jump right in because we want to hear your take on it as well. So let's go back to basics here to get the whole thing started, Carlos. Laughter. What I mean, when you're a comedian, you have to be thinking about laughter. You have to be thinking about what makes people laugh, what's funny. You have to kind of look at life a little bit different. How do you approach the whole thing? I mean, you're putting together a routine for yourself. What are you doing?
Yeah, so I think it's when you try to be funny, it's kind of one of those things. It's elusive, right? When you go like jokey, it kind of loses you. So there's a couple schools of thought, but for me, I like to keep it very personal. I talk about my family a lot and stories about growing up and those things because that's what people connect with, right? Like I've seen other comics, and again, everybody has their style, but they like to talk about Trump a lot or politics, and I don't really want to go, into that because it's kind of what we're already seeing a lot of, all over, and it's not necessarily connecting. So somebody might laugh, but they won't remember the performance, right? They're not going to remember you because it was kind of a topic and it kind of comes and goes. But when you can really talk about, my family's this way, and people relate to that because they have their own family issues or, strifes or funny things that happen to them. So, really just try to keep it close to the heart and pretty personal. And it works out pretty well that way. That's
really what most of the really top comedians, at least the ones I like, let's put it that way. But the famous comedians who I like who have, I think, their really own unique style, they're the ones they draw directly from personal life. I mean, yeah, you're right. There are a lot of comedians who go to politics or, entertainers or whatever. But the ones who just draw from everyday stuff are the ones who I think are the most enjoyable. Because, like you said, we can all relate to it. And that's really important.
Right.
Plus, it also makes it easier.
I think it's important just to talk about things that you find humorous. I think comedians we think about life differently in general. And so, like I said, this is before I started even writing routines. I'm seeing things happen in real time and commenting, and this is what I think. This is my opinion of this, and people just started kind of laughing, and I said, "Oh, I like that. I like that. When I can make people laugh." And in school, growing up, it was probably not my teacher's favorite thing, but
it usually isn't.
Right, but I was always respectful, right? So there's a line. I wouldn't be disrespectful, but I did have a problem, just calling out. If it's hard for me to kind of bite my tongue, so to speak. So that really, I guess works to my benefit, later in life, and it's been allowing me to make people laugh for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you made that comment about the teachers not liking it made me think of something that Joel Elston, who's my Thursday morning co-host, posted about this week. He has a young boy who's about 11, 12 years old who he adopted a year ago. And apparently he got a phone call from the principal because his adopted son got in a little bit of trouble because he put some Vaseline on the handle of the door going into the classroom, and the first person to touch it was the teacher of the classroom. So not exactly the best timing. That's an example of how to not be so respectful and cross way over the line.
Yeah, I think there's only one time where I did that, and it was I think it was maybe my freshman year of high school. I zip tied the teacher's bag to her chair, and then the bell rang, and we all got up to leave. And but in my defense, it was very, very, very funny. So it's kind of hard for me to.
Well, it probably wasn't from her perspective.
Actually, she laughed. No, she did.
Oh, she did? Oh, okay.
Right. I didn't necessarily get in trouble for that. It was then that's the thing though, right? It's like I showed respect to my teachers and was a nice person, and so they knew that, that's funny and it's not malicious, but it's like, hey, there's a time and a place kind of thing. And that's, and it's funny to kind of get into that real quick is comedians at the end of the day are just kids who never learned to follow the rules, right? It's like, you're not supposed to do that, or you're not supposed to talk, or you're not supposed to say that, or but comedians, for the most part, again, I don't want to generalize here, but we don't play by, the rules of regular society, and that's something that kind of allows us to have that kind of unique perspective. So.
Robin Williams, when he was on. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, can I add to that? I like the way you bring that in about being a kid who like hasn't, like grown up or whatever. Because, I mean, we come here as this high vibration energy that knows that we can do everything and the world evolves around us. And it's from that energy. That's a very high vibration. So, comedians just let that be there, where a lot of people are like squashing that, and that, kind of like holds them back. But I love the way you talk about, at least I think you said your comedy is making fun of life stuff, because why not? I mean, to take all that heavy energy off of situations that a lot of people can relate to and just kind of look at it from another perspective is very healing. It really can have, maybe someone going through something be able to look at their thing from this other light side point of view and like, okay, you know what? I'm going to look at it his way because there might be a solution in there in whatever that comic skit is that you came up with, even though you think it's just something funny, but really when it's in that high vibration, it could spark something. You don't even know it. You could be sparking solutions for people because they'll come in when you're able to be in that high vibe.
Yeah, it's funny though. It's comedy is a very different place now than it was even 5 years ago, just because of kind of what's going on politically in our country, and it just seems like people, instead of that mindset when they go to a comedy show, it's the crowds are a little bit more hostile, where people are like they come looking to be offended.
Oh, jeez.
Instead of that right, because they are heavy topics, and that's really what laughter and what comedy is all about, is taking those taboo topics or taking something heavy and giving it some light and lighting it up. But there's just it's just like this kind of a shift in paradigm that's been happening. But I think that's temporary. I think that just kind of goes with the times that we're going through right now. So
I liked what you said about how a comic will tend to think a little bit differently from everybody else about where the line is. I mean, it reminded me of something that Robin Williams once said in an interview on Inside the Actors Studio, where he said, the line is here, and we're out here like, woohoo, all right! Jumping way past the line. Like, oh, no, line, what's a line? We'll just blur that one.
It's funny, too. I think that, speaking of that same concept, really, and I can't say that necessarily I found my comedic voice yet, and I think that a lot of comics talk about this, and it takes years. Some comics say 8 years, some comics say 5 years, some say 10. And really what that is it's a fancy term for saying to let all your ego go. And that's something that I, have been focusing on even before really taking comedy seriously, is just really stripping myself of just all these things that, I'm projecting out there, or, I want people to think of me in this specific way. I have to let all that go and just kind of be myself. And it's been talked about, especially comedians who kind of gone through that. It's really a journey, and really finding, and that's a pinnacle, right? It's like you get there and those people on stage feel so comfortable, and you see them talking about crazy things, and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he said that, right? Or something like that. But they're just so comfortable in their skin because, they know who they are. And they're able to kind of portray that. And although, again, for me, it's a little different. It's like when I'm with, people, maybe not on stage, but, at a parties, and I'm riffing and I'm having a good time and I'm making people laugh, like that is my voice. But on stage, it is a little different. It's when everybody's sitting there looking at you and expecting, and then now it's like, oh, I wanted to say this, but then, well, what if they take it wrong, and there's not a lot of, you can't have that in your brain. That kind of ruins the comedy. So it's a process to kind of try to get that unfiltered view of the world to really come out unfiltered.
To what extent do you think that is something that you, the comic, develops, and to what extent do you think it's developed by your audience and what they're reacting to?
No, I think it's 100% inside the comic, because what you ultimately figure out is that comedians, it's almost an arrogance to them too. It's like, if they go out there and they try something and it bombs, like, which means nobody laughs. Not a lot of times they'll be like, oh, that was my fault. It's always, but that's the attitude. It's almost like, we talked about this in another podcast, with Alex, about negatives, or what we see as negatives really being positives. And so something like arrogance, it's like, that's always been a negative. Every time you hear, oh, that guy's an arrogant, whatever, or that guy's arrogant, that's never seen in a positive way. But arrogance in this case, is what you need in order to to keep going, because comedy is probably the only job that you, the first day you're on, you're judged by everybody, and you can't use that excuse that, oh, I'm new, oh, at office jobs, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm new. Oh, okay. And it's kind of, they give you the benefit of the doubt. It's like, oh, well, you're not, you're not an imbecile. You're just new. Okay. That's fine. But in comedy, you can't practice, without the audience there. So even as a musician, you might, perform in front of people, but you can play that song all day at home by yourself,
right?
And perfect it. And for comedy, it's very unique in that only in a live environment can you even see if something is, working. So there's a lot of failure in comedy, but there's a lot of learning too. So you kind of, you fail often, and it's a lot of learning how to fail, right? And so comedians talk about how long it takes them to put an hour together. I've never put a full hour together for special, but, for, say 30 minutes, for me, that takes almost a year, lots of trial and error and writing and rewriting. And so kind of what you see with the more polished comedians is a lot of the after effect of all of that failing. So it's, comedy, or being a comedian in and of itself, the process really is a great way of stripping down that ego and those insecurities, I guess you can say.
We should probably also take a moment to touch on the health side of comedy and humor and so forth. Jeffrey actually posted something that made me think about it. He said right before joining this podcast, he said he shared a post that says 1 minute of anger weakens the immune system for 5 hours. 1 minute of laughter strengthens the immune system for 24 hours. Which I'm not sure if the statistic is accurate, but it makes sense because there's a lot of evidence to show that laughter does have healing effects. And lately in my own family, that's been an important thing because we've been dealing with some stuff, and laughter has helped us get through some really important things. So,
right.
Comment on that. Either one of you comment on that for a minute, because I think that's an important piece of the whole puzzle.
Well, I think also just making fun of the ego. I mean, what better way than to put it into check and let it be like in that little, and bring out really more of the heart side of you, which is the lighter side, right, which can hold that higher vibration. Because as we all know, I think everybody knows who would be listening to this show, high vibration is how you're going to manifest what you want. Even what you don't even know you want, but what is for your highest good, because you're holding that high vibe, and so the energy can flow. And so I would think that for comedians, I mean, I don't know, Carlos, do you ever go off your script because you're just kind of led somewhere because you're in that high vibe?
Well, so I think everybody's different. For me, it's a lot of off script because, or script, off, what I had already written, because you just, comedy is not about me telling stuff at you. It's really should be, good comedy should really be conversational almost. And it's funny, you'll see people shout out from the audience because they really think that they're compelled to say something, that if anybody's listening that goes to a comedy show, that's frowned upon. So we'd ask that you do not do that. But sometimes people just kind of yell out, and it's like, okay, well, I wasn't, they almost feel like that person's talking directly to them. And that, that's the best kind of comedy. You know what I mean? It's just, it feels, natural. It feels like, oh man, I know this person. You know what I mean? Like I can really relate to this person. It's, But yeah, I mean, as far as the health is concerned, I'm not sure, but I mean, I feel good when I laugh. So I mean, that will definitely, is healthy. You know, I'm sure feeling good never hurt anybody.
But there are stories of people healing themselves by just watching nonstop funny movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's that high vibration. Then the healing can come in. You know, and I love how you said you like to go off script, right? Because when you're in that energy and you're connected, like when I do healing work, I may have an analytical idea of what this person might need, but you know what? It's always bypassed by what flows through. And I go with what flows through because it's coming from something outside of me that knows better, right? So I imagine you, when you start getting in your flow, you don't even know what's coming next. It's just coming through. And that's beautiful because that energy is just a really high vibration, no matter what you say.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I try to capture the most because, like I said, that's where I feel the most comfortable because that's what I've been doing all my life is kind of just blurting out funny things. Like, it's, with almost hardly any thought. It's just kind of been quick-minded. And so, like, that's something that, you know, again, it's trying to match my funny to on stage. You know, it's really, and it's, you would think it's very, like, transferable, but it's just, there's just these different things. I mean, so to give you an example, like, we talked about bombing before and failing and trying things out. There's a lot of factors that go into, comedic, performances or live stand-up, that you don't have in like other settings, you know. It could be, the energy of the room, like if people just get off of work, do they have drinks yet? Are they irritated? They were standing in line too long. Like there's all these different things that if you really took it personally every time you didn't do well, then you would never last, right? And so you just got to keep in mind that there's a lot of things that kind of contribute to this. And sometimes you're going to have that perfect storm, sometimes you're not. But you kind of take every experience with a grain of salt, you know, so that you can actually start to form your material. So you don't say, oh, that nobody laughed and throw that away. You might try it in a different context, so you might try it a little bit differently. And because you know there's something there, right? And you kind of just mold it. And that's why it takes so long. It takes, you know, almost, like I said, good comedians to get ready for a special, they take a year of touring and clubbing or, you know, hitting clubs and trying things out. I've seen very famous comedians bomb an entire set, like nobody laughed at all whatsoever, which actually made me feel better. I'm like, hey, like this is just a reality of what this is, of this work, you know. So,
by the way, regarding health issues, I realized I probably should have provided some background there because maybe I have information that other people don't have. My second year doing the podcast, my first permanent co-host was my sister-in-law, Ioana, who is currently pursuing a PhD in the neurosciences. And she shared some informational research about research that she had done that basically showed they've done a lot of research on laughter and on humor and on the role that laughter and positive feeling and so forth play in healing. They actually have gotten to the point now where if you actually have access to all of the equipment, it is conceivably possible to start with a laugh or a smile and measure that in the brain and then trace the entire path through the nervous system down to some portion of the body that needs healing and observe the healing effect that takes place moments after the laugh happens. So that they can actually visualize the whole thing if you have all the right equipment in one place, which usually doesn't happen, but no, a researcher could conceivably do that, which is fascinating. The other thing that she told me that was really interesting, they have been able to determine that if you are laughing or thinking about something really pleasant, you know, something that makes you feel really good, and you focus on it continuously, kind of like what we talk about when we talk about holding a thought for 17 seconds or 68 seconds in order to create manifestation. Well, there's an actual physical manifestation that takes place. If you hold that thought there and make it strong enough, essentially, 90 seconds later, they can actually detect the healing happening at the source of the injury or the illness or whatever it is. It's a 90-second time frame there. And simultaneously, the way that plays out is the nervous system. It works primarily off of neurotransmitters, and these neurotransmitters create these little, neuroreceptors in the nervous system. More of them get opened up when you're feeling good, when you're laughing. But if you're feeling down, if you're feeling depressed, it goes in exactly the opposite direction. They all start shutting down. So literally, laughter becomes not only a healing mechanism, it produces life. Whereas when you're feeling down or you're sad or depressed or angry or whatever, it's actually sending signals through the body that says, start killing off the body. Now, obviously, it doesn't get far enough to actually kill you off, but nevertheless, that's what the process is actually doing. So laughter is life-giving. It's truly a life-giving thing, and medical science has been able to prove it.
Very cool. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. Let's go back to the title for a second here, because the title is Laughing Your Way to Your Dreams. And, Linda, you pointed out that a number of people have used laughter to overcome dread diseases and so forth. I think probably the most famous one is back in the 1950s. Norman Cousins wrote about how he watched Marx Brothers movies and just used that as a way to beat cancer, which was a pretty cool thing. And there have been other stories since then. But it also applies to other areas of our life, and I think this is where I want to bring Linda in, because it's about getting into that high vibration place. And just maybe, can you talk about that for a minute, Linda? Like, why is it so important to be in that high vibration place? And when you're there, how does laughter, in your opinion, from an energetic point of view, how does that contribute to the high vibration place?
Well, it can take you, for me, it'll just bypass that programming that's going on in that subconscious mind. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I keep muting myself because for some reason my dogs are going crazy and no one's here to make them quiet. They were just howling.
Okay.
So I'll keep muting myself as that happens.
That's all right.
But, you feel it, don't you? As soon as you start laughing for any reason, even a smile, even if you fake a smile, you can't help but actually have it become real, because it just changes your energy. So I don't remember what you asked me because I was too concentrating on my dogs there. But laughing, I'll tell you this. I went through a really hard year after my sister passed, and just watching movies that uplifted me, and especially things that made me laugh for no reason, would just bring me out of where I was.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the best medicine that there is. It's just, it's really healing because you know what? You silence that subconscious mind, that mind chatter, that negative talk. It can't exist when you're laughing. It's just, there's no place for it. It's like how the energy of fear and love cannot exist at the same time.
Right. Yeah, that is important.
It's funny. You don't even have to make someone laugh for them to feel that. Just the attempt sometimes works. And I tell you, I didn't know this until, again, just going through the trial and error of, doing stand-up. I bombed. I just something wasn't right that night. And I kind of went through my set and I didn't go like I wanted it to go. But, I got a compliment from somebody that said, you have very great energy. Like, it's like, you just command the space, and it just, you have really great, and that's like, again, the laughs didn't work, but for somebody to kind of come and kind of, even say that, and that's the first out of a few times that happened. So yeah, it's, I agree. It's like, I always like to, I'm lucky that my smile is my default, so. There's very little time where I won't smile. Even when I'm upset, it's just kind of a, it's a little different smile. But
you know what? You made me think of something. I know there have been times when maybe I was mad at something, right? So you're in that energy. Now, sometimes people like being in their mad energy. They just do. Because my husband or whoever it was making me laugh. And I'm like, I don't want to laugh. I'm mad right now, and I could not stay mad because he was making me laugh. I'm like, stop making me laugh, because right now I'm really mad. You're going to make me forget why I'm mad. So that subconscious mind was trying to come in to make me stay there. But you know what? it couldn't, because the laughter overruled it, and that energy was going up to where the other one couldn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just takes you right out of it.
So you have to condition yourself. So that's a great point that you said, that because I've been there too in the past when like, this is a great example because everybody's kind of been through this, but like a breakup, and it pains you to think about it, but you keep thinking about it because it's kind of like this, it's an addicting feeling almost to sit in this, kind of pain and it's not that it feels good. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it that kind of draws us to stay there.
It's easier to go there, and we've been there so many times. It's kind of a comfortable energy, believe it or not. And
well,
so you're in a comfort zone, even if you're not really happy, right?
Right. And so that's a huge thing that you just said there, is you're in a comfort zone even if you're not happy.
Right.
I mean, come on. Like, how many times have we found ourselves in that spot, right? And so it's my point is to create a new comfort zone. And so I feel like that's why I really strive for positivity all the time. And it's funny because even sometimes, and I never saw this as a negative, but, I'm very open and aware and just in talking to people. Sometimes, though, being really positive makes others think that you don't have problems or that you are going through things, right? And I just say that I have to control what I can control, right? And so if there is something happening to me or if I'm going through something and I'm very positive, and it's not because I don't care, it's because what's the alternative, right? I can either be in this high vibration or I can go sit down here. And sitting down here, like you said, is easy, right? And so a lot of people like to go there, but I've kind of trained myself to, and not that I don't get upset but I get here and I don't stay there. I do things, again, that I can control to get out of there as fast as possible, right? And I think that's important, is to train yourself to get out of those situations, because they will come. They always do come. Life is up and down, right? And so the faster you can get out of that down, mentally, like mental wise, and your thoughts, it's compounding, right? Like when it rains, it pours. So don't stay in the storm too long. You know what I mean?
You just illustrated. We all have free will. We all have choice. You can choose to be miserable, or you can choose to be happy. Plain and simple. And you know what? It is simple, even though we make it feel so hard sometimes to get out of this lower vibration or this problem. But if you only look at that problem, you're never going to get out of it. That's why we have this gift of imagination to have us put ourselves out in this other space where everything's really good. And why not get into that childlike, easy to do place of wonder and imagining this good. So for me, the point I'm trying to get to is, you can either be in the higher vibe or the lower vibe. There could be things happening in your physical reality, but we are spirit and we create everything in our existence. So we can choose to stay in a lower energy, or we can choose to go into a higher vibe. And if you don't know how to do it, I have a program that teaches you how to do it. But if you don't know how to do it, you got to turn on the TV, get some comedian out there, some movie, some feel-good thing that can take you away with it. Like you can just go with it, right? Because that's what's happening when people come to your shows. They're there for the experience, and they're open, and they're going to let themselves go.
Right.
So, and that's a choice too, right? So, when I was given that example of someone trying to make me laugh to get me out of being mad, well, why would I really want to choose to stay mad? But if I do, it's my choice. Nobody else's choice. I make myself miserable or I make myself happy, right?
No, that's very true.
That's very cute, because I've been around people that they like to stay there, and to me it's not, I can't fathom why, but that's just my own personal thing. But yeah, you're right. It's this, or a song or a movie that you kind of go to. And then just, like I said, controlling things you can control. Like when life is throwing you, challenges and stuff, you can sit and worry about a lot of stuff, but you can't change a lot of it, right? And
not from there.
things like working out, things like exercise, things like eating right, treating your body with respect as far as what you put into it and what you get out of it, and what you do. Like what choice are you going to sit in a dark room, or are you going to walk outside for 30 minutes in the sun? And those things. It's like there's so many things, little things that you can control. And when you start to take control of those things, you feel like you have more power. Now it's things aren't happening to you necessarily. There's just something that's maybe not to your liking that's happening, right? It helps to take you out of that mentality.
Well, yeah, because nothing's ever really happening to you unless you want to.
Right. It just feels like it.
You want to be the victim? You can be the victim, right? But everything that happens in your life, I've got bad stuff that's happened in my life. I got some stuff going on right now. But I know there's some part of it that is within me or would not be out there. So there's healing to be done with whatever circumstance shows itself to you. And we can do it the hard way, or we can do it the easy way.
Very true.
I choose the easy way. Confront it, look at it, let it go. Do something that lifts you up. Stay in that vibe, because when you're in that vibe, then you'll hear your spirit giving you the next step or the solution. It comes in, but you got to be in that high vibe to get it. Mm-hmm. And thank God we've got comedians that can help us get there when we can't do it ourselves. Really, because really you're like healers, Carlos, you're a healer.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I feel that. And I was just gonna say earlier is that the way that I just found that I love this is, again, from being small, but even to, it's just, the feeling has kind of grown exponentially on stage is I get fuel from others' laughter. Mm. So like, I almost literally feel like I'm sucking energy out from, like that's how I keep myself in this, high vibration all the time. It's kind of, when someone laughs from something that I said, from a thought that I had, that really, had that effect to where somebody makes an audible sound that's uncontrollable. I just made this person do something. Basically, I just made this person have a reaction, and that kind of that energy that I get back from that, and again on stage, it's amplified, is keeps me going for through whatever. That's really what feeds me.
So I totally relate to that, because for me, when I'm channeling healing, I'm high. That energy, and that's that energy that's fueling you, that's coming through you to those people, allowing them to release it. So you're not sucking anything out. You're actually putting in the light, and they're able to release that darker energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just by the words that you're saying and the energy that you're putting, because it's more than your words. Everything's always more than the words. It's the vibration. But you're channeling that vibration right there to the whole entire room. And I would go on to say even past the room, you don't even know where it's going. It's going out into the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Think of that. You're going out past your room from the stage to the energy will just keep going, right? Especially the good energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful. Hey, we got a couple comments I wanted to share from our listeners. First of all, Jeffrey said, "I can feel my vibration rising right now from all of this, from all of us participating and co-creating." He says, "I'm going to go do some physical comedy right afterwards." So good for you, Jeffrey.
Nice.
And Nasha says, "Laughter has healed me a lot. Laughter is the biggest source of my survival, to be honest." And she goes on to say, "Happiness needs change, and that's why it's difficult. We have to come out of the comfort zone in order to come out of the depression, loneliness, etc. Most of the time, when we are down and upset, we are in the comfort zone." So exactly what you guys were talking about a moment ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The comfort zone could be a scary place.
It is.
And it can come out of nowhere. I think that's where a lot of people kind of find themselves, where I find myself. You do the things you're supposed to do. You go to college, you get to the career, whatever, and then Monday, and then you can't, and you're waiting for Friday, and then the weekend comes and goes, and then you wait for the next Friday, and it's kind of like, revolving circle, and then you look up and it's like, wait, what? Am I even living? Like it was hard, very hard for me when I was doing corporate work to live in the now, live in the present. I was always thinking about something else, thinking about a business I could create, thinking about jokes or this or that. It's very hard to sit in. But that's a comfort zone, right? It's like, hey, this makes money. I know where I'm supposed to be at all times. I know I'm going to get a paycheck. This is all things that are very comfortable. So a lot of people sit in there, and that's, I mean, again, to each their own. But for me, it was just, there was no way that was going to, be able to continue to be a possibility for me. So it's, now, is comedy more hustling and more kind of going after and getting your own, opportunities? Yeah. But that means that I have to be in the now. I can't think about next week. I was like, what do I have to do today in order to bring me forward, to progress? And those little that micro focus for me, and I do think about what I want to manifest, but I don't like to, think a lot about the in-between, or the how, because a lot of people get stuck in the how, and if you get stuck in the how, you'll never manifest because you don't know the how. The how could be a route that you never even thought of before, that you'll later find out, oh wow, look, and in hindsight, oh look at all these things that, kind of match together to put me here. But if you think, oh, I want a house, and you don't have a job, it's like, well, don't let that stop you from, man, oh, I don't have a job. You're already limiting yourself, right? And so I like to think of the destination, and then I really like to think of today and what do I want? What am I doing today because energy manifesting is one thing, but then it's not necessarily a direct manifestation. It's not like I'll have a house and then tomorrow I get a call that I want a house, right? I might get an opportunity that I need to be able to recognize, and through that it's leading me in the path to what I'm trying to manifest, right? And so, yeah.
There's two things that all of that brought up for me. Number one, and I don't remember if this is one of my stories in your book, Walt, or not, but when I was manifesting the house that I'm living in now, and there was like struggle with being outbid and this and that, and one deal falling through and all of this stuff. But when I locked on to this particular house, I would actually sit with the listing and all the pictures of all the rooms and have a cup of like nice tea or something, and I would be living in that house. Okay, I still didn't have it. I still didn't close the deal. They were still going back and forth with all this other stuff and possibilities of how I wasn't going to get this house. It wasn't looking good. So I would just be in it. I mean, I was holding parties. It's on 2 acres. I was having these outdoor barbecues. I was redecorating. I was painting. I was doing everything. I was already living in the house where I was living at that time. And then I got this house against all odds. Right. But it's because, and I'm sure you were doing this with your Neville Goddard thing, Walt. It's because it was, actually being there and feeling the result of that. Right. And that's what brought it to me, because that's what it's all about. But I wanted to talk about, when your energy dips sometimes. Like I had like 2 days of misery during this past week. And
me too.
while I'm going through it, I'm like, because, a lot of what I do too is awakening coaching, because the vibration of the whole planet, everything's changing. That's why people are changing careers. They're wanting to follow their heart and follow their purpose, because there's this whole big spiritual awakening going on, and people are opening up more to the spiritual side of things and realizing that they're much more than this little package that they live in. And that their life is not dictated by everything outside of them telling them you must be a lawyer. You have family that makes you go a certain route, or who knows what it is, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are kind of waking up, realizing they're more than just this physical body and all of this stuff, that it's all made out of energy. And so the planet is literally changing its frequency so fast that we're trying to keep up in our little human bodies. And we're purging energy that doesn't serve us. You've got help in spirit helping you do all this. You're being downloaded with new ways of being that you're like stepping into because you've got guides and angels helping you. Some people might think I'm crazy, but this is what I live and what I know. And I'm telling you, I had like 2 days where I'm like, who is this person? I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go with it. You know, like my normal routines or tricks weren't exactly helping. So I realized, okay, this is something, I just got to feel this. I just got to be with it. It'll pass. And the more I didn't fight it, the easier it was for it to release. And I just was being grateful. I'm like, okay, I'm grateful for this energy that is leaving my system because it feels really heavy. And I'm happy to let it go. I'm not going to hold on to it and fight the feeling. I just stayed with it. And then, things like watching, actually for me, I'll put the Hallmark Channel on or something like that and get into a higher vibration from that, or comedy, something really funny, or even The Walking Dead. Okay. I love that show. It'll just bring you out of it. Well, that's all about compassion, that show, so,
It's funny that, comedians for the most, they project all this laughter or they bring out this dark energy, like you said, and allow people to release it. But and this isn't my story in particular, I'm very unique in this way. I think who else said something similar? Maybe it was Conan O'Brien or something like that. But, a lot of comedians comedy comes from a lot of pain, their own personal pain. And, I didn't have a whole lot of adversity, and pain or anything like that growing up. But I would have to say like 95% of comedians, that's their story. And so, that's a huge power to be able to turn something, and these are when I say pain, like these are some of the most negative things to ever happen to people, and to be able to go on stage and be vulnerable and to tell people about it, and not only tell people about it, but turn that dark energy into light energy right there is, to me, I mean, that's, that guy's a sorcerer, right? It's a wizard.
And that explains life purpose, because we come here with a plan before we get here. We just forget about it. They live those horrible things just so that they can go on and help other people to release it too, right? To find the flip side of it. Now, I'm one of those people like you. I haven't had terrible things happen in my life, but yet somehow I've come to this. I'm able to help other people overcome things that might have been, like really horrible for them. You don't have to have lived it to be able to be that channel for it, but that just shows how, moving into this higher vibration is healing.
Yeah.
No matter how it comes through, whether it comes through as a comedian or it comes through as an energy healer, you're still tapping into that same energy and it's channeling through you.
It's funny, and also like comedians for the most part, after having done it for a long time, it's like any job. You don't go, if you work at McDonald's, you eat McDonald's a lot for the first year, and then you're sick of it, right? And so I find that a lot of comedians don't get their healing from comedy. They'll go to a show and they're not necessarily laughing out loud. And it's not because they don't like the show or they don't like who's performing. It's that it's almost like a watered down medicine, right? They kind of got they'll kind of, that's a smart idea, or that's a good joke, but they look at it a little bit differently maybe than us, than non-comedians. But for me, I get a lot of healing and good vibrations through music. That's something that I, am into daily, and I even have a certain song that's like, this is my feel-good song, it's me going, I might do that before an interview or an audition or something like that, and for me, music is like the soundtrack to my life. So it's really my mood determines, because I like all types of different music. So, I'll be in, a mood to be listening to R&B, maybe I feel romantic or loving or something, or maybe I'm ready to go and I just need some good energy. So I'm going to listen to, some up-tempo hip hop so it really, like, I use music a lot to, kind of amplify whatever it is that I'm wanting to feel. or what I am already feeling, and so that I can kind of get the most out of it, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, Carlos, Jeffrey has a question for you. He says, what makes Carlos laugh hard? What makes you laugh hard?
Oh, for me, physical comedy. So I love like Chris Farley, for example, rest in peace. He's my hero, my favorite comedian of all time. And just his ability to he is funny, right? He's not acting funny. He's not saying funny things necessarily. He's just, this person is just, and when he walks into a room, he's funny. I was at the Groundlings Theater, is where I study improv, and there's this, guy who was in my class, and he was the same way. I mean, this guy, as soon as, he didn't even have to open his mouth. He makes some kind of face or something right before he's going to say it, and everybody says, it's just that essence. It's like you say, sometimes it's not even about the words, it's about the vibration. People like that give me Kevin Hart, that gets me going. That makes me laugh pretty hard.
Yeah, he actually did a follow-up. He says, what makes you pass something through your nose? Which sounds kind of disgusting, actually, but I understand what he's talking about. Which means you're in the middle of drinking something, and then the comedian catches you by surprise.
I guess, yeah. I don't know. I really like, for something to be really extremely fun, I like when people make their, call things their own, they have their own words or their own phrases for things. And, I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly. Just to kind of, when I see people's brains work, when it's like they describe something in a very unique way that, that's to me, I like very smart comedy. Like, I really enjoyed George Carlin back in the day also.
Oh, he was great.
Who is just amazing when you can just see the intellect coming out of this person, in such a funny way. It's just, that to me is
he was an example of somebody who connected with the audience, because if you just listened to what his jokes were like, they're okay. But it was the way he delivered them. It was the way he talked to you as he was sharing them. It was not, like you said, it wasn't, right. He wasn't just sending them to you. He was communicating directly with you, and that's what made it funny. I was fortunate enough to see him one time when he came. I was at school at the time in Buffalo, New York, and he came to Buffalo to do his routine. And even though, we were in this big, big auditorium, we were way, way in the back. He was like this little tiny, portrait on the stage, standing about an inch tall. That's how far away he was. But you felt like he was one row away from you because of the way he would talk to you.
Right.
You know what? I saw Robin Williams once when he was Mork, back then.
Oh, God.
He was kind of new to all of that, but I happened to see, I was at a comedy place in New York, and he just happened to come in, and they let him go on stage, or I don't think it was planned. And he was just picking on things from the people in the audience, like one after the other. And it was just like, he was so quick with finding something that was funny about whoever it was he happened to look at.
Yeah.
I thought that was like, wow.
That I love that, and that's a lot of what I do on stage also. But yeah, I guess that's why I like it. It's kind of selfish.
It's good though.
You know who I really like too? I don't know if you guys know him. Well, Carlos, you probably do. Eddie Izzard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he cracks me up. The way he puts his comedy out and plays like two stories, and yeah.
There's a Netflix special out right now called Bumping Mics. It's very similar to that, Linda, where it's actually two comedians, Dave Attell and Jeff Ross, who started off Dave Attell would have a 1 a.m. set in New York, and when Jeff Ross would fly into town, he'd come in at midnight, go to the comedy store, go to the Comedy Cellar and just see who's around, see what comedians are there. And they started just kind of going on stage together and just riffing off of each other, and it became this huge show where this is only, and again, I mentioned that comedians don't necessarily like to go to comedy shows when they're not, but this is a show that comedians were flocking to, and that's just because it's so really, it's called Bumping Mics Bumping mics, yeah. And it's just right. It's just really off the top. These two are the quickest guys in comedy right now. So if you like that, you probably really like this. It gives you that feel of being in a comedy club. You know, that's there's nothing better than that. I like watching, you know, comedy in big theaters and stuff. But to me, it's a completely different, you know, experience.
Yeah.
So.
One of my favorite things is when a good comedian, and Linda, you mentioned Robin Williams, he was really good at this, would take an object that was just in the audience. Probably the most famous one was where he took somebody's Donna Karan scarf and used that scarf to do like 4 or 5 things in a row. And I was curious, Carlos, is that something that you've ever enjoyed doing? That, you know, just finding something that's in the audience and just taking it and seeing what you can create with it on the spot?
No, so like for me, that's like very Steve Martin. That's very Robin Williams.
Right.
That's I haven't yet. Like that's kind of, or that's too past my purpose. To me, that'd be unless, I mean, I haven't done it yet, but just the same way that I look into the audience and think of something funny, I'm sure that if the right object were to appear, I'd know exactly what to do with it. You know what I mean? Like that's so not necessarily, not yet. But yeah, I don't do really that much physical comedy. Mine's more, just kind of riffing with the audience in between. Because
it strikes me that's where you really have to. You talked about how you kind of cross the line and you're experimenting. That's where you're like out on the edge of experimentation. You're on the cutting edge at that point because you get it wrong and the audience is just kind of staring at you. But you get it right, it could really work. So it's really, I can see that would be like one of the toughest things you can do because you can't prepare for it. How do you prepare for somebody having a Donna Karan scarf? You know?
No, but what you can do again, just kind of focusing on what you can control. Comedy is something, like I said, all those factors that you can't control. There's more than you can't than the ones that you can. So really just focusing on what you can control is your energy and your enthusiasm, right? So if you take that scarf and you go 100%, they'll laugh just because they're grateful that you made the effort. You know what I mean? Like if you go and you're unsure of yourself and like, oh, maybe, like the audience wants to be there with you. They want to give you the benefit of the doubt. So
that's gotta be.
I mean, if you'll get what you give, you know.
That's gotta be comforting. It's gotta be like a security blanket almost to know that the audience wants to be made to laugh. So they're waiting for you. Like I know you can do this. Come on, I'm ready to start laughing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, that's something I learned very early is the first joke it should be strong because it gives the audience permission to laugh. Because at first, especially when you're unknown, this doesn't happen with known comics. So I'm going to make that distinction. But when you're relatively unknown, they don't know if you're funny. So they're kind of almost more worried than you are up there for you. They're worried for you. They're not worried.
Right.
It really is. They're like, it's because they are projecting their fear of public speaking, right? And they're like, oh my goodness. Especially like if it takes a while for them to, they're sitting nervously for you, right? So if you kind of break that ice and get them to laugh, like, oh, okay, we can relax. Like, this is going to be fine, right?
So do you ever use that? Do you ever use that example as your comedy for the group? You know, I know some of you guys are really nervous. I might not be funny.
Yeah, so one of my intro jokes is something about, because they clap for you right before, you know, when you come up. And so I say, oh, you know, that's really nice. I love comedy because one of the only places people clap for you before you work, right? So you kind of gave me the benefit of the doubt. I could be really bad. I could be not funny. But I already kind of got what I came for. And then I say, this is what waiters must feel like when they get a party of 8 or more. You know?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, that's the best is when you kind of can, when you pick out exactly what's going on in the room, people love that. It's like, it's a natural point that everybody knows and can laugh at. So, yeah.
By the way, Jeffrey was commenting, when you were talking, you went on that one spree there, you were sharing quite a few thoughts in a row. He was saying, look at Carlos' smile, lighting it right up. So your approach really works. In fact, I think he was the one who said, I'm not sure if I'm going to spot it right here. I think he was one who said that he wanted to steal your line about always smiling. I don't remember what the exact line was, but that you tried to make it a point.
By default, maybe.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, smiling by default.
Yeah,
that was the one.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I would work nights in a factory. When I started at Amazon, I was a manager of a warehouse, and I would work overnight. So I was like 3 a.m. and I'm just sitting there with a huge smile on my face, walking down, and people are just wondering, like, what's going on? Like, why is this person so? And they would ask me, they're like, oh, why are you so happy? And I didn't know what they're talking about. I had no idea. I'm like, I don't feel like particularly happy right now. I'm just living my life, but that's just kind of how. If you don't see me with a smile, that's when you know there's something
really wrong.
I mean, they're really hungry, or extremely stressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Laughter is contagious, just like a smile is contagious, just like a yawn is contagious. I mean, did you ever see someone cracking up and they can't even tell you what was funny, and now you're cracking up and you have no idea why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was me in trouble when I was in school too.
Yeah, like even in the theater, if someone starts, it's like it gives everybody the permission to let go.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, it's just a lot of people have that. I talk about trying to let go of my ego, but a lot of people have that ego too. It's like they might even think something's funny, and they're like, they kind of do this, thing where they look around and see if anybody else is laughing. But yeah, it's true. It's kind of, we are like we are a group species, right? And that we kind of like to, for the most part, we like to kind of be with the group. So absolutely.
Right. Well, this is one of those rare occasions where I was enjoying it so much I lost track of time, and we're actually a few minutes over, so I think we kind of draw it to a close. But this has been great, and thank you for sharing, Carlos, to you especially, thank you for sharing your insights about the nature of laughter and how we can use it best in our lives. That's a great thing. And Linda, Carlos, we'll be talking to you in a week.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Have a good weekend, guys.
Have a great weekend. Absolutely. And we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.